Hello and welcome to Talkin' Daily Sports, episode number 4. I'm your host, Luke Harden. It is a beautiful Monday, September 27th, and what a weekend of football and golf and baseball. It was a crazy weekend, a lot going on in all realms of sports and especially football. So we're going to hop right into it. Obviously, starting with what became on Saturday, which was college football. The college game day game was Notre Dame versus Wisconsin. There was some controversy. Should it have been Texas A&M, and Arkansas? You know, the world may never know. It probably was a better game, but Arkansas or A&M is not as good as people think. And we're going to start with that game, starting with how good, first of all, how good Arkansas looked. Even though I don't think people are giving enough credit to Arkansas on how well they played, because they're talking about the fact of how bad A&M is this year compared to last year, obviously, with the COVID year where they were like, I think they were the first team out. I think they were the 5th team in the rankings. Their only loss being to Alabama, I think. They had a really tough time. Zach Calzada did not look good whatsoever. And that Arkansas defense is for real. They have a really good defense. And KJ Jefferson and Traylon Burks, KJ Jefferson is good enough that they are going to win some games, and they are going to be a really good team. They currently sit at 8th, and they go to Athens. That will be the college game day game in Athens, 2 versus 8. So that will be a huge game this weekend. And along with that comes number 1 Alabama versus number 12 Ole Miss. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see my Ole Miss poster right there. It's a huge game. As I've said in past episodes, the buildup is real. You know, obviously college game day is not going to be there, but it is going to be a huge game regardless. If both Arkansas and Ole Miss win, they play each other here in Oxford on October 9th. And I can tell you right now, that is going to be the craziest atmosphere I've ever experienced. And I am hoping that is the case. But we will see. Alabama, obviously, a force to be reckoned with, and Nick Saban, a force to be reckoned with. Oregon did struggle a little bit against Arizona in the first half, but pulled away in the second half. Nothing really much to talk about there. Georgia absolutely throttled Vandy. They were up 28-0 before people were even in their seats, probably. They were up 28-0 with 6:42 to go in the first quarter. Wound up winning 62-0. Vandy's just down bad. I don't know what to say. Baseball school is all you could really say there. Oklahoma did also not look good against West Virginia. They had to win on a game-winning field goal. And Spencer Rattler once again did not look good. It got so bad that the Oklahoma fans were they were chanting for Caleb Williams to be brought in the game. Obviously, Caleb Williams was a 5-star in the class of 2021. I believe he was the number 1 quarterback in the class of 2021, or maybe number 2. I don't know exactly. He is going to be really good regardless. Spencer Rattler needs to figure it out, or he's not going to be around for much longer. Cincinnati sits at number 7. They play Notre Dame, obviously, as I said, coming off a huge win over Wisconsin at Soldier Field. They go back to South Bend to play number 7, Cincinnati. So that's 7 versus 9. Huge weekend of college football this week. Obviously, as I've already mentioned, 3 top 12 games. So huge weekend of college football. That'll be a game I keep a close eye on to see, if Cincinnati wins that and they run the table. The way the season, or the way the first 4 weeks have gone, I think Cincinnati's a contender. They really are this year. It's no surprise to me that Cincinnati's a contender. Speaking of contenders, do you think is Michigan a contender or are they a pretender? I don't know. It's really, it's hard to tell. They played a much improved Rutgers team, obviously under Greg Schiano. That was not an easy game. Jim Harbaugh pulled it out. Michigan's defense is really good, and Cade McNamara, I think is how you say his name. He was, I really do believe if Michigan does want to be elite this year and make a push and be a contender, they need to start JJ McCarthy. I don't think there's any two ways around it. If they don't start JJ McCarthy, they are going to find themselves back in the same situation like they do every year. And they probably still could. I mean, we're obviously 4 games into the year. Michigan has not played anybody too impressive. They obviously beat Washington. They beat Northern Illinois, Western Michigan, and now Rutgers. They play Wisconsin in Madison this week. So, and then obviously you got to go to Ohio State at the end of the year. And who knows where they'll be. But they do have one of the most elite rushing attacks in the country with the trio of Corum, Haskins, and I don't know who the other guy either didn't play or he got hurt or something. But they got a 3-headed monster up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Edwards. Yeah, they got Corum, Haskins, and Donovan Edwards. So there's a 3-headed monster rushing attack up there in Ann Arbor, Michigan. How long they will sustain that is to be determined. They're a good team right now, but we will see. Another big thing, Clemson. They're 2-2. They are just hanging on in the rankings at 25. They're completely out of the coaches polls on or actually no, I think they're 19 in the coaches polls, but Clemson's not good this year. They just DJ Uiagalelei is just not getting it done. They coming off last week barely beat Georgia Tech at home, and they go to Raleigh, North Carolina to play NC State, and they lost. And NC State gave it to them. They went into overtime, and there was a whole situation with EJ Williams after the game. I won't touch much on that, but it was not good. Baylor. How about Baylor? This upset on Iowa State was no surprise to me. Everybody, I mean, you can say what you want. This was not a surprise to me one bit. Baylor at home against Iowa State. They're 4-0, by the way, as they're ranked 20th now. So Dave Arnetta has that team moving in the right direction after obviously the COVID year. They weren't prepared last year, but this year they came out and they are ready to go. And they have a big game coming up this week against Oklahoma State on the road, who both those teams are ranked and both 4-0. So huge game in Stillwater, Oklahoma this week. As I've said, there's a ton of great games. Auburn did not look good. They had to bring in TJ Finley and bench Bo Nix just to beat Georgia State at home. So, why they're still ranked, beyond me, I don't know. Wake Forest looks like a really good team. Right now, Wake Forest has been the best team in the ACC. No two ways around it. NC State got clobbered by Georgia Tech this weekend. It was a massacre. They did not look good at all. Georgia Tech handed it to them. Final score of that game was 45-22. But Wake Forest is 4-0, and they look, say what you want. They haven't played too many great teams. They played Old Dominion, Norfolk State, Florida State, and Virginia, but they have a very favorable schedule. They do have to go to North Carolina. They play NC State at home. They play Clemson on the road and Boston College on the road. So their last 3 games are tough games. But I think, at the end of the day, I think they have a chance to really hand it to the ACC. And Dave Clawson has that team moving in a great direction. So moving on to Sunday, where we had a lot of football to talk about. starting with the early games. And I mean, where do you start? Matt Prater tried to make a 68-yard field goal at the end of the half in the Jags-Cardinals game, which was returned for a 109-yard touchdown by Jamal Agnew, which tied an NFL record for longest kick return touchdown. Obviously, as far as you can go, there's no 110 yards because the end zone only goes up to 109. So what a return for Jamal Agnew. The Cardinals did wind up winning that game, however, and Urban Meyer and Jacksonville is 0-3, while the Cardinals moved to 3-0. And then also kicking related, Justin Tucker broke the record for the longest NFL kick in a game of 66 yards to beat the Detroit Lions. Now, there was some controversy. There was definitely a delay of game. The officials obviously missed it. They did not call it, and that eventually cost the Lions the game. And the Lions are probably the best 3-0 team out there right now. They have battled with all three teams they've played so far. I mean, last week against the Packers was not particularly great, but they didn't look horrible. They gave the Niners a run for their money. And the Ravens. So they play the Bears next week on the road. Can Dan Campbell pull out a win? I think Dan Campbell's a solid coach. I don't think, that's just unlucky right there. 66 yards. What are you going to do? That's just very unfortunate. Other news, the Chiefs are 1-2. And I mean, how about that? The Patrick Mahomes threw 2 interceptions yesterday. It was that kind of day for the Kansas City offense. Obviously Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 100 yards rushing. The offense did not look bad, but it also has not looked good. They have not been clicking on all cylinders through the first 3 games of the year. They did sign Josh Gordon today. He was reinstated, and he has signed with the Chiefs, so that'll be interesting there. The Saints moved to 2-1. They beat the Patriots in New England. So shout out to Jameis Winston, even though I don't like the Saints. I'm a Falcons fan. Yeah, I'm a Falcons fan, guys. 28-3. Falcons did pull out a win. Younghoe Koo hit a game-winning field goal to beat the Giants in New York 17-14. It was an ugly game from both teams. Neither team looked good, but the Falcons ended up pulling it out. The Steelers, they don't look good. The Bengals handed it to them. Ben Roethlisberger was pathetic. I mean, it's just straight up. I think it's time for the Pittsburgh Steelers to move on from Ben Roethlisberger. I think it's well overdue. I think this is probably his last year in Pittsburgh, or I think it might already be. I don't know if they've announced it, but I think his time is coming to a close. He is 39 years old. He's going to be 40 in March. So, he's got no mobility. So we'll see where that goes. The Broncos are 3-0. Granted, they've played probably the three of some of the worst teams in the NFL in the Jets, Jaguars, and Giants, but they are 3-0 regardless. So shout out to the Broncos. The Raiders are also 3-0. They win it in overtime. The Raiders are a really good team. The Rams are 3-0. They beat the Bucks in LA. Matthew Stafford looks like an MVP candidate with that Rams O-line. I mean, there's just no two ways around it. He's looked really good, and he's going to continue to put up those numbers as long as he has that O-line. So, and then the Sunday Night Football game, Packers and 49ers. You can't leave more than 10 seconds on the clock for Aaron Rodgers. If you do, he's going to beat you. That's all I'm going to say on that. It was a great game. Pathetic for my fantasy team. I'm 0-3 now, so love that. I suck at fantasy this year for some reason. My team is ranked, or I have the 3rd most points in the league, but I'm going to be 0-3, so that's just awesome. Eagles and Cowboys play tonight. So I'll be watching that one closely, see how Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott do. But what a weekend of baseball. Obviously, we're coming down. Most teams have 6 or 7 more games left. The Braves swept the Padres out of town or out of San Diego. The Padres are 500 and he got eliminated officially from playoff contention over the weekend. If they weren't already eliminated in everybody else's mind, they are officially eliminated. Obviously, the Braves have the Phillies coming into town this starting tomorrow on Tuesday. They're 2.5 up. If the Braves win 2 of 3, I think it's over. I think the division's locked. They play the Mets this weekend as well. So, the winner of the NL East is not going to have more than 87 wins probably, unless the Braves go on a run and just win the next 6 games. But I doubt that'll happen. The winner will have to play. Milwaukee clinched over the weekend. The St. Louis Cardinals are the hottest team in baseball, and they are not going to be stopped. They've won 16 straight games, and it doesn't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. And they're going to have to still play. The Giants have a 2-game lead in that division still. Obviously, as I said in prior episodes, they don't play each other at all. So, depending on where that ends up, the Cardinals are going to have to play the Dodgers and, in LA, and they're the hottest team in baseball. So we'll see how that goes. Cincinnati is going to pretty much miss out, even though they're 7 games above 500. They're going to miss out on the playoffs. The Tampa Bay Rays locked up the AL East. They look like they just win. They just win. I mean, there was 2 ways about it. The White Sox, as I said last episode, locked up the AL Central, and the Houston Astros are 1 night away from clinching. They have a 2 on their magic number. So talking about wild card, obviously, this is probably the craziest wild card you ever see. The Yankees lead it by a game over the Red Sox now as they swept the Red Sox in Boston. The Boston's in the second wild card spot, 1 game up on the Blue Jays. The Mariners are 2 games behind, and the Oakland Athletics are 3 games behind. So a crazy last week of baseball as we come down to the beginning of October and October baseball, playoff baseball, the best baseball there is. But, yeah, I mean, I'm excited and ready. Hopefully my Braves can make it. But, it's going to be a test this week. They got to face Wheeler, Nola, and Kyle Gibson. So, and obviously they got their 3 best with Morton, Fried, and Anderson going. So we will see. It is going to be an interesting game, interesting week. About wraps things up for today's episode, if I could speak. If you enjoy this episode, you're watching on YouTube, leave a like, subscribe. If you're watching this on Spotify or any other podcast app, follow me on social media. The links will be in the description below. And I hope you guys have a blessed day. Love you guys. Peace, guys.